All right, let's talk about one of the most incredible stories ever told. It's the story of you. I mean, really you. How you went from being a single, tiny cell to a fully formed person. It's this mind-blowing journey, a perfectly timed dance of biology that builds every single one of us. And today, we're going to dive right into how it all works.
Okay, so think about this. Every single one of us started as just one cell. One. But how? How does that one cell know what to do? How does it know how to build a heart or a brain, or even just the tips of your fingers? It's kind of like being handed a single Lego brick and being told it's going to build an entire city all by itself. So where are the blueprints? Where's the instruction manual? Well, that's exactly what we're going to figure out.
So to get to the bottom of this, we've got to start with the architects, right? The blueprint for life. It all comes down to two systems, working toward one single goal.
And here we are, you look at the male and female reproductive systems, and on the surface, they seem totally different, right? But really, they're like two halves of the same coin. They're designed to be perfectly complementary, working together for one, incredible purpose, to create a new individual.
Okay, let's kick things off with the male system. The whole story really starts here, in the testes. That's where sperm are made. And from there, they start this long journey through a whole network of tubes. Along the way, they get mixed with fluids to create semen, basically getting prepped for their big mission.
And what's so cool about this is how specialized every single part is. The testes? They're the production factories, and they're powered by testosterone. Then you've got the glands, which are like the support crew, adding all the essential fluids. And finally, the urethra and penis, that's the delivery system. The whole thing is just this perfectly coordinated operation.
All right, let's switch gears and look at the female system. Here, the main event really revolves around the ovaries, which, as you probably know, produce the eggs. And this is the key moment right here. Once a month, one of those mature eggs gets released. That's a process we call ovulation.
So after ovulation, the egg makes its way into the fallopian tube. You can kind of think of this as the designated meeting spot. It's really the only place where fertilization can happen. And if that meeting does happen, the journey continues on to the uterus. Now the uterus, thanks to hormones like estrogen and progesterone, has already been prepared. It's turned into this nutrient-rich, cozy environment, basically a nursery, all set for a potential pregnancy.
All right, so we're at that meeting spot in the fallopian tube. The moment of fertilization. This is where we hit a major fork in the road. It's a tale of two paths.
So what happens next? Well, honestly, everything from this point on depends on the answer to a single question. Does fertilization actually happen or not? That one answer changes everything.
So let's look at the two possibilities here. If fertilization happens versus if it doesn't. One path leads to the beginning of a new life. The other path? Well, the body just hits the reset button and gets ready to try again next month.
You know what's really fascinating? It's all about communication. If that egg gets fertilized, the brand new embryo starts sending out a chemical signal almost immediately. It's a hormone called HCG. It's basically like a text message to the mother's body that says, "Hey, I'm here, don't start the next cycle." And that message is what keeps the uterine lining from breaking down. No message, hormone levels drop, the lining is shed through menstruation, and the whole system resets for another try.
Okay, so let's say fertilization happened. What comes next is an absolutely wild week of transformation. We're talking about going from one single cell to many. And the speed of this change is just breathtaking. We start at day 0, fertilization. That happens in the fallopian tube. And as this new little zygote travels toward the uterus, it just starts dividing and dividing and dividing. 2 cells, then 4, then 8. It just keeps doubling until by about day 4, it's a solid little ball of cells called a morula.
This crazy fast division has a special name. It's called cleavage. And what's unique about it is that the cells are dividing, but the whole thing isn't actually growing in size. So you're getting more and more cells packed into the same amount of space. It's all about multiplication, not expansion at this point.
Then around day 4 or 5, things get even more interesting. That solid ball of cells rearranges itself into what's called a blastocyst. So it's not solid anymore. It's become a hollow ball of cells, and it's already got 2 different parts. There's an outer layer that's going to become the placenta, and then there's this clump on the inside, the inner cell mass. And that's what will become the actual embryo. The very first big decision of development has just been made.
So, this whole first week ends with a really crucial step around day 7, implantation. This is the moment the blastocyst literally burrows into that nutrient-rich lining of the uterus. It's basically plugging itself in, establishing that vital connection to the mother so it can get the nutrients and oxygen it needs to keep growing.
All right, so we're plugged in. Now the real construction can begin. This is the great specialization, where we start building the actual blueprint.
And this next phase is a process called gastrulation, which is just mind-boggling. It's like microscopic origami. You have this simple structure of cells, and it starts folding in on itself, reorganizing into 3 distinct, fundamental layers. These 3 layers are going to be the master builders for, well, everything else.
So what are these layers? They're called the ectoderm, the mesoderm, and the endoderm. And a really good way to think about them is like 3 different construction crews showing up to a job site. Each crew has a totally different set of responsibilities for building the final structure.
I mean, just think about this for a second. The outer layer, the ectoderm, that's the crew that builds your skin, your hair, your nails, and your entire nervous system, your brain, your spinal cord, all of it. The middle layer, the mesoderm, builds all the internal structures, your heart, your circulatory system, your skeleton, your muscles, and that inner layer, the endoderm, it creates the lining for your digestive system, your liver, your pancreas, and your lungs. Literally every single part of you started out in one of these 3 layers.
Okay, the blueprint is drawn up. The construction crews know their jobs. Now you need to build the life support system, a whole world within the womb.
And the absolute hero of this entire support system is the placenta. It is an amazing organ. It's the ultimate go-between, the interface between the mother and the fetus. It's like this master negotiator, handling the transfer of all the good stuff, like nutrients and oxygen, and getting rid of all the waste. And what's really crucial to understand is that their bloodstreams never actually mix. Everything has to be passed across this incredibly selective membrane. It's a very sophisticated filter.
Of course, the placenta doesn't work alone. It's got a whole support team. You have the umbilical cord, which is the physical lifeline connecting the fetus to the placenta. And then the whole thing is inside the amniotic sac. That's a fluid-filled bag that cushions the fetus, keeps it warm, and basically creates this perfect, protected little world for it to grow in.
So there you have it, this unbelievable journey from one cell to literally trillions, all following this perfectly timed sequence of events to create a new human. It's the standard blueprint for all of us. But what happens when that first cell splits and decides to take 2 separate paths? What happens then? Well, that's when things get really interesting. Join us next time when we dive into the fascinating world of twins.